Maybe you can relate to this. It's certainly happened to me many times. I have an argument with someone else, and it gets really heated. I get so angry, and I could yell, and I wanna throw something to the floor. I want to run out of the room. I want to smash a door because I feel so frustrated because the other person doesn't understand what I'm talking about, and it's frustrated me that we keep going around and around in circles about the same thing, and I just get so angry. And it all started because the other person had an emotion, and I didn't understand it. And that is emotional intelligence. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the Mental Health Podcast. I'm Tim, and I invite you to join me on my journey to talk about men's mental health. Before we begin, as always, a brief disclaimer. I am in no shape or form a mental health professional, but I've had, as you can tell by the episodes that came before this, my own journey struggling and figuring out how to deal with my mental health, and I want to encourage other people to do the same. So come on, join me, and let's talk about men's mental health. I'm back from holiday. Sorry about last week. There was no episode then, but I'm back now, much more tan, relaxed, and not as angry as I maybe was just a few minutes ago in the intro. Sorry for yelling. Today I would like to talk about emotional intelligence. It's almost a new buzzword that people throw around, claim they have, claim people don't have, claim people don't need, claim managers have, and that's why they get promoted, or managers need to have in order to get promoted. And some of these things are true, some of these things aren't true. But before we get really into it, what is emotional intelligence? Well, to put it bluntly, in a nutshell, emotional intelligence describes how much in tune a person is with their own emotions and with the emotions of other people, as in how well they understand what's going on within them and how they can relate and understand what happens to other people. It is the ability to more or less self-regulate your reaction to your own feelings, because you recognize what you were feeling and you recognize how you react to those feelings. And it is understanding that other people have feelings and emotions and that they react to these feelings and emotions in some shape or form. There's five components that kind of make up emotional intelligence. Sorry, I almost forgot the word there. And that is self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Now, some might argue that social skills is one of those, but I guess maybe that's just me. And once you have mastered all five of these components, you are, as we call, emotionally intelligent. But intelligence, isn't that something you're born with? Isn't that just something you have and something you can nurture if you have it, and if you don't have it, you're just, sorry. That is something that people believe about the IQ, the so-called intelligence quotient. I maybe should have tried to pronounce that word better first. But similar to the IQ, or the intelligence on a logical basis, the EQ is not something that stays the same throughout our lives. It can get better. It can become more trained, more honed, the skills that you need in order to be emotionally intelligent. Just like with logical thinking, you can train to be better at it. Of course, as with everything, there's a genetic component, and some people are just born being a little bit better at it than other people, but that doesn't mean you can't learn it. Just because some people may be able to learn it a bit easier than you doesn't mean it's impossible. It's just a bit harder, but it is so worth it. But before we go into why it is worth it, or how you can learn it or hone it a bit better, let's look at why men don't really have it that much. It's something that we teach our children, but most generations so far have taught it one specific type of child that they had, and mostly that child wasn't born without a penis, because it is something that we mostly teach girls and children that are born presenting as women, as feminine, but as soon as there is a penis dangling around somewhere, we say, nah, it's not really that important. There's a plethora of different reasons why we men aren't taught emotional intelligence. And it's not to say that not every man, or that every man isn't taught them, or that not every man has them. Emotional intelligence is something you have to a degree anyways, but some better, some worse. No, not worse, but some less. And also some men are just born with it already being able to be very emotionally intelligent. Other men aren't. Other men are taught or recognize that they need that in their life. So there's lots of blanket statements that are being made by me in this episode. But generally speaking, the emotional intelligence aspect of what we call intelligence, so there's the logical base, which is measured by the IQ, which is, also problematic, but this is not the point of this episode, and the EQ, the emotional intelligence, are two spheres that have been separated to be one more important than the other. Well, one is more taught to boys, and hence seen as the more important one, because, in a man that is run by, in a world that is run by men, and men are good at logical thinking, so they, put the emphasis on that, and that's more important to them. So, yeah, that's what they hone, that's what they hold up high. And the emotional intelligence, well, let the women do that. They're better at it anyways. They have to look after children. It's normal. That's how the world runs. Yeah. Bullshit. Right? But because we have created this belief system for centuries, men have been, cut off their emotions. They've been taught to ignore them, or if not ignore them, to not really how to interact with them, how to regulate them, because it's that's a women's thing. It's not a men thing. And as far as we've come with the effeminate men and today, and the men taking up more labor in the household, taking more responsibility for raising children, being more connected to their relationship with their partners, and being more open towards other people, there is still, and just go back to the Hollywood episode, or the talk with George, the last episode, or quite a few of the other episodes I've done so far, there's still the idealized male figure who is dominant, logical, and can shut off his emotions completely, and doesn't really care about other people's emotions. Because, to survive as a man in this world, you don't need emotions, you need logic, because in logic you can get rich and become a business person. Because, as I've also mentioned before, men are measured by their achievements. So there's a lot of encouragement to do something, and to move something, and to change the physical world around them, and to be active, and to get things done, but not really to feel things. And that starts with a young age. Boys don't cry, and boys go outside, play. They play with toys. They go out, do sports. They're physically active. Another way is that there's just nobody to teach us. So either there's just not the encouragement to be taught that, or people don't see it as important because men or boys don't need feelings, they don't need emotions, or there's just nobody there to teach us. For example, for me, as I've mentioned before, my father wasn't around because he committed suicide when I was 4. My mother was a single parent, fully employed for until I was 10, and then afterwards had to deal with her own mental health issues. And well, of course, she was, taking care of me as much as she could, but there wasn't really much education in the emotional sense going on because she wasn't really able to do it to herself. So I didn't get to learn it until I was in my late 20s, because there was nobody there. And I can imagine that that's true for many people, where the parents are now encouraged to work as quickly as possible, as soon as the child is able to be in daycare, nursery, in school, or wherever. And if you're in school, there's 30 other kids for one, or in the nursery even, there's like 20 to 30 other kids for one person to take care of them. There's not really the time or the energy or the possibility to teach every individual child everything about their emotions. And then when they're home, the parents don't have the time or the energy to do it either. So we've created a system that basically doesn't really encourage us to learn the feelings or give us the possibility to learn them or the chance. And it also just excuses male or our behavior. If a man is just quickly very angry, well, then he has a temper. But a temper isn't a character trait. A temper is an emotion. You are angry because you have a feeling. You are feeling angry. But if you don't realize why you're feeling angry, then you just get angry again and again and again. And that's a temper. Or what we describe as a temper. And it's not looked at, to be encouraged to deal with, but, he has temper. Men just have tempers. Men are just more like angry and aggressive. But those are feelings. Those are emotions that we can deal with and that we can accept and talk about and learn to regulate. And having a temper and being someone who just gets angry very quickly is one sign of having low emotional intelligence. And as soon as we talk about intelligence, I should have said that earlier, but I guess I'm not intelligent enough to structure this episode well. As soon as we start talking about intelligence, people feel attacked quite quickly because, for good reason, we've made it pretty plain that we value intelligence above anything else. Of course, we always talk about the logical, the IQ intelligence, the one that we as a patriarchal society cherish as good, and not only patriarchal but also capitalist, because only if you are smart enough to make the big bucks by being logical and analyzing everything, and also kind of being a dick to people, because you can only become. Not only, but most of the time, if you become rich, you do that by exploiting other people. So not really in touch with your own feelings, I would argue, but that's a different conversation. And as soon people start feeling attacked, because we've created this world where they, obviously have a reaction if we take away that thing that they are mostly or only valued and affirmed by, especially men or mostly men. So when I say having low emotional intelligence, people will probably very quickly go into well, that's not me, I'm intelligent. Because we feel that intelligence is something that you are or have or not, but not something that you can gain or learn. But just like with the logical intelligence and the emotional intelligence, I'm just going to say it again, it is something you can learn, and it's not our fault. It is the fault of the system we live in, but it's not you personally are not at fault for not being emotionally intelligent or for not having learned the mechanisms to be considered very emotionally intelligent. But you can. I did. I was rubbish. I was the worst. I will get into that a bit more in a minute, but I learned it, and I'm not not the best, but it's always a learning curve. You always get better, you always improve if you stick with it. So I would probably never argue. Like a Jedi Master. Are you ever a Jedi fully? Or do you just become better and better at it? I mean, Luke in the latest films didn't consider himself a complete master yet. He hadn't learned everything, and he was doing it for a long time. So why not call them your Jedi skills instead of the EQ? Anyways, back to topic. Signs, apart from a temper that you have not well enough mastered the Jedi skills of emotional intelligence, can be the need to always be right and to refuse to listen to any contradicting ideas. And that's partly also true to do with the fact that, we only value people that are correct all the time. And people aren't allowed to change their opinions anymore, because then they might flip-flop all the time. Which, there's precedence for that, but, mostly people, if they learn more information, should be allowed to change their mind and listen to other people's opinion and value their opinion as also something that is just as good as yours. Even if you disagree with them, you can still disagree with them in a healthy way. Always seeing the fault in other people and blaming other people for the shortcomings that you may also have, but not really seeing that. Only, I blame other people for constantly nagging me when I nag them all the time. The big one is the inability to recognize your own feelings or the feelings of others. And it sounds a bit vague, but what I mean by that is, as the example very early on in the episode, let's say I've had a terrible day at work, because, we spend most of our time at work, so probably has been something at work. And then I come home and my partner says something and I just lash out and just say, oh, this is rubbish, I don't care. And then that gets into an argument. But I'm not really angry at my partner. I'm angry at the stuff that happened at work, but I didn't realize that I was angry at something other than that. But that was just the outlet I had at the time to be angry at. That can happen with anything. Like, I can just have a depressed episode. And before I realized that I was having a depressive episode, I would just, be a dick to other people because I was actually not being able to recognize my own feelings and just saw everybody else to blame, basically. And still sometimes do, if I'm, not able to recognize what's actually going on with me. I'm getting better. Those Jedi Force. I am becoming the Jedi Master more and more. And also being able to recognize other people's emotions as something that they can or do. For example, if someone else has a bad day and they tell you, oh, I feel really, really shit about something, and I do that still less, but I do still do it, and we as men are just doing it constantly, and it's totally understandable why we do it. We want to fix things. That is our thing. We love fixing things. We are really good at fixing things. So when someone comes to us and tells us, I had a really shitty day, this and this happened and it was really annoying, first response, fix it. Okay, I see your problem and this is how I fix it. We don't say that, we just say, well, why don't you do this? When a more better way would be say, I see what the problem is here and this is how you could fix it. But the even better one is, why has this person come to me? This person has come to me because they're not feeling good and they want to, be heard and be seen and don't necessarily need their problem fixed, because, believe it or not, most of the time, the person knows. They know how to fix it. They know what the problem is. They know what's actually going on. But they just want to, rant, or just want to be, have someone that tells them, oh yeah, that sucks. I understand that. And sometimes they want help. And of course, as it's our impulse to first fix, it's really difficult to unlearn that. But we'll get to that in a minute. And along with that goes usually in relationships, and that can be romantic relationships, or familiar, like family relationships, or platonic friend relationships, any form of relationship. As social beings, we relate to each other by how we feel about things, how we experience the world around us and feel about those things. And if you can't relate to other people's feelings, or can't see their feelings as valid, or don't know how you feel about things and able to communicate those feelings with other people, then that makes those relationships be very difficult. And that's why there's lots of men's friendships that are based around sports, or getting things done, or achieving things, because then you can share in those feelings of, yay, we did it, or yay, our sports team won, or shit, our sports team lost, or shit, we didn't do it. You can relate because you've experienced the same thing, which makes sense. But there's more to this. There's more feelings out there. There's many, many more that you can share with other people, and then have deeper relationships with them. But so I've talked now about some signs about having low emotional intelligence or Jedi skills. But what are signs of high emotional intelligence or those Jedi skills? Well, it is understanding your feelings. That is the biggest. Like knowing, oh, I am feeling this, and being able to articulate that, not necessarily out loud, but to yourself. Oh, this happened, and now I experience this. That happened, and I experience this. And the next step is, oh, when I experience this, this is my reaction. Is that healthy or not? If not, I can change my behavior. I can see that. Or if I can't change my behavior, I can at least, communicate, oh, I'm feeling this and I'm reacting that way because of this. As long as you don't hurt anyone. Or, don't shout at anyone, but just, for example, watch TV for an hour if something shitty happened to you. And you can decide for you if that's healthy or not. And if you decide it's not healthy, but that's how you react, then okay, do it. And it's being able to self-regulate. If you have a very, very strong emotion, having the ability to be like, okay, this is why it's happening, and I'm feeling this because of this, and I can now process this and work through it and have the emotion calm down, if that's what I want. It's being able to want to do stuff. It's not just being able to completely block out emotions. If you want to feel sad, then by all means, feel sad. But it's the ability, if you don't want to feel sad, to have mechanisms to work through the sadness. Not to suppress it and ignore it, but to, work through it. It's the ability to listen. And what that means, I'll get to in a minute. It's being able to respond and not to react, and I'll also get into what that means in a minute. And it's being able to communicate effectively, and that goes like hand in hand with each other. And I'll talk more about that now. Because why is it good to be emotionally intelligent? And how can you be more emotionally intelligent? How do you become the Jedi Master? I'm really milking that metaphor because I love it. I think it's actually really good. And I like it. And if you don't like Star Wars, then, well, I'm sorry that you have such a sad life. No, but you can probably still, or hopefully still, relate to this. Anyways, emotional intelligence. Why is it so good? Well, it makes life a lot easier. I've found for me that the more and more I am able to recognize my own feelings, and being able to recognize other people's feelings, and to communicate my feelings, and communicate effectively about other people's feelings, that my relationships are better, I'm happier, I can relate to other people better, and it makes it better. It makes the world better, because if we are all more emotionally intelligent, we can relate to each other better, and there's less need to dismiss other people for how they feel, but also to alienate other people as others. There's many conversations going on right now in which we say people, because of certain aspects about them, be it their gender, be it their gender identity, be it their sexuality, be it their political spectrum they're from, be it their home country, their country of residence, whichever. There's lots of conversation that they are others and they're not the same as us. But they are. They are the same as you and me. They have the same feelings. They experience the world through eyes or ears, touch, smell, just like you. They were born just like you and had no impact on how, where, when, why, and as who. None. We only have an impact on the choices we make afterwards and how we react to those other people and how we interact with these other people. And the more emotional intelligent we are, the better those interactions are and the more we can relate to them. And the less reason to be, hateful and to just feel bad about other people and with other people and with myself. As I've said in another episode before, it is helpful to just say what you feel, not necessarily to any other person. You don't have to immediately go out like, hey you, I feel sad, hey you, I feel happy, hey you, I feel depressed, but just, there's this thing in me and I don't know what it is. Talk to yourself instead. You don't have to necessarily talk to other people. Figure out what it is you're feeling. There's websites out there that can help you understand what those feelings are and give you words for it. Because if nobody ever told you this is the feeling and this is how I describe it, maybe you've experienced the same, then it makes it very difficult to just now be able to do the same. We need to learn the vocabulary first before we can tell it to other people or ourselves. But we can recognize something is going on in us, and we can recognize, when this happens, this is going on in me. What could this be? And when that happens, this is going on in me. And what could that be? And then the next step is to validate that. Because very quickly, we are very quick at dismissing our feelings. We are very, very quick at dismissing, I feel sad. Yeah, but you have no reason to be sad. You have a good life. Or this will go over, just ignore it. Or you don't be sad. Or, oh wow, you did that really well. Yeah, but other people did it better, didn't they? Yeah, no need to be happy about that. I'm so confused right now what to do about my job. But I have a good job. I shouldn't really be confused. It's not necessary. I'm angry. I'm angry that some other person has been treated badly. But maybe that other person didn't mean it. And that could be true. But you're still allowed to be angry. You're still allowed to be confused. You're still, allowed to feel happy or allowed to be sad. If we immediately dismiss our feelings, we don't process them. And then they may stay with us longer, or they turn into something negative if they're positive. Then very rarely, because we dismiss them, turn from something negative into something positive. I don't think that's ever happened. At least not to me. If it happened to you, let me know. I would be very interested in how that works. I've said earlier that it is a sign of high emotional intelligence to be able to respond rather than to react, and to be able to listen. And but what does that mean? People, it sounds like, respond, react, aren't they the same? And I was confused about that too for a long time, because what does that mean? I listen. I can, if someone tells me something, then I'm able to repeat what they've said to me. I heard it. The sound made it into my ear, made it to my brain. And I still struggle with telling someone I understood, because and this is where I'm still very not good. I still sometimes think it's not necessary, because I obviously heard that person. I'm there listening, because my active listening is just listen. But there's more to that, because the other person needs to know that we do that. And someone will be very happy listening to this episode that I'm acknowledging that I'm bad at it. but I'm also good at it. Just not in the way that I'm, other people agree active listening should be done. But that could be cultural or my how I've been brought up. Anyways, something that's really helped me to grasp the concept better is listen to understand and not only to reply. We are typically, as I am, and the far I've noticed a lot of other men in my surroundings and I interact with, when someone tells us something, we need to say something back. We need to respond. That's how communication works, obviously. You hear and then you respond. But often we either don't really listen, we just wait until it's our turn to speak, or we give the solution, like I said before. And an important skill to learn when we want to be more emotionally intelligent or be Jedi Masters is to listen, but in order to be able to repeat what that person said in your own words. Some people don't feel the need for that, to speak it out loud afterwards, but for some people it's important, and it's good to figure out who that person you're talking to and what they need. But the important aspect is that you listen to what that person said and then are able to say back to them in your own words what the problem is that they're describing to you, and then be able to validate what they're saying. You don't want to give a solution. You don't want to say something that's happened to you that's similar to that, unless that's how the conversation goes, but shouldn't be the first response. The first response should be, oh yeah, I understand this, and this, what the person just said. And I'm not great at that, still. I can see the face of the person that's going to listen to this and what I'm going to hear after that. But yeah, that's how we learn and grow, by acknowledging something we're not good at and trying to get better at it and work with that. And something else that I've found really, really helpful, and I'm trying to incorporate more and more in my conversations, especially with people that you're close with. It doesn't really work with colleagues so much, but with people you have a close relationship, friends, family, or romantic partners, is to ask what they need from you. Because, like I said earlier, men, we want to solve things. We want to get down to the bottom of things, and we want to solve things. So our first impulse is to solve things. But like I also said earlier, that's not necessarily what the person that's trying to talk to you needs or wants at the moment. But sometimes they do. And how are you supposed to know? Well, ask. And this goes out to the partners of those men. Recognize that that's a good thing if your partner asks, or if your friend or your father, brother, whichever family status, they ask. It can feel a bit weird. Why are you asking me this? It's obvious, because to you it may be obvious at that point, but to them it's not. And it's good to know as a man, okay, I want to be heard. I want just some encouragement. I want someone that rants with me, that tells me how shitty that other person has treated me. I want advice. I want a solution, or anything else that you come up with, and then talk about that. And then the other person knows, okay, and now I can give you what you need and what you want, and I can communicate in a way that helps you with your emotions. And when I feel emotions, I can tell you what I need. And then you know. And it seems simple, or maybe even simplistic, because it makes it sound like we need a guidebook for communication. And I'm sure that for many people that are very emotionally intelligent, that feels a bit weird. That might feel like, but come on, you should know. You should know. You know me. I've been in your life for years. Why don't you know what I need? It's obvious. I have this problem. I need this. Clear. But as men, it's not. And if you struggle with mental health or have other things going on, I, for example, quickly get overwhelmed by not knowing what is the reaction, because I'm not told and I'm not good at, understanding what other people feel by just them telling me. I always take them very serious, so I find it sometimes, interestingly enough, I sometimes been able to super easily read sarcasm, depending on the situation. Sometimes I'm completely bad at it. I don't know. I don't understand if a person is being sarcastic, if a person wants me to react in that way or that way or that way. I have no idea. Nope. Absolutely not sure what they want from me. It happens at work all the time, but at work I don't feel comfortable enough to say something, so I just wing it, and 90% of the time it works. But with other people that are close to me, I've just come to know. I'm sorry, I need to tell you. What do you need from me? What do you want? Please tell me. Is this a fun conversation? Or are we just joking? Or is this a serious conversation and we need to talk seriously about this? So yeah, it helped me, and maybe it'll help you. Or yeah, try it out and let me know. Also, let me know if it doesn't work, because, why? Not as in, why doesn't it work for you, loser? As in, oh, interesting, why didn't it work for you? What am I not seeing that this could do? It's a process. It takes time. It's not something that you can do overnight. It's not something that can change overnight. We didn't learn like any other things just overnight. We had to do them repeatedly and implement them repeatedly and practice and engage with them. But it's so worth it. I've spoken to quite a few men who've engaged with it, and all of them have said that it's made life better for them. None of them have said, oh God, now I'm more emotionally intelligent. It sucks. Jesus, I wish I was more ignorant. Just hasn't happened. So try it. And yeah, let me know. And yeah, this is it. I would be super happy to hear from you. You can message me via email, tim@men-tell, TELL-health.com. You can visit the website, men-tell-health.com. There's an anonymous contact form. You can message me on Instagram, comment on Instagram or on YouTube. And I would be super happy if you could give this podcast a rate, either on YouTube with a thumbs up, or on any of the podcasting apps, especially Apple Podcasts helps a lot. A good rating if you like it. Give it a review. Subscribe. Click the bell button, whichever. Share it with your friends, family, and whoever else you think might benefit from this. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope I hear from you, and you hear and or see me again next week. Goodbye.